Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of He Said, She Said. I'm Renee. Today's video, we're going to be doing a number of things in the art studio. So, for example, we're going to be putting in a faux beam for all you fancy people. That might be fake beam, that's fine. Right around this area. We're going to be putting in ceiling insulation to make it nice and cozy. We'll put in drywall. And then we're also going to be doing all of the trim around the baseboards and around the ceiling. So stay tuned. It's going to be a really busy episode. So today we're going to start with the low-hanging fruit, the long strips. Put all of those in because they fit perfectly in the rafters. Put those in, and then we'll come back and do the small pieces that have to be cut to size. It should go pretty quickly, but that's sometimes what we say and things take a little bit longer. But our goal is to try to get this all installed today so we can move on to the next step, which will be to figure out what kind of sheet goods we want to use for the ceiling. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. It'll probably need a trip to Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that to figure that out. We have a faux beam ceiling, faux beam that we're going to run across the middle of the ceiling, which I'm excited about. We have all the trim painted and ready to go. So this is the behind the scenes stuff that makes the pretty stuff functional. I could have a knife or something for this, right?
All right, so something of a before shot. It's only 12 foot by 24 foot, but it seemed like a lot of area to cover to get all the insulation up. This is definitely a two-person job. So happy that I have a partner like you for projects like this.
Yeah, thanks.
We got part way into it, and I remembered how much I hate working with fiberglass insulation. The dust that comes out of it and like gets on it makes your skin itchy and makes your eyes hurt. We finally woke up and donned some PPE to do the balance of the project.
Yeah, so and this did go pretty quickly. I mean, the actual, I guess the physical installation of it, I think the thing that took longer was every sheet you had to move 2 ladders. And up and down, and up and down. I don't even know how many times we did it, but by the end of the day, yeah, we definitely got our steps in.
It's good for you.
It was very good for us. A lot of overhead, you know, but that was the only thing. The actual installation has these little tabs on it for the staple gun, and I think it went really well. But that was, I think, that was the only thing that was the challenge.
And not a lot of rocket science in our little system for cutting the ones down to size that needed to be, but I thought it worked pretty slick.
Yeah, and you know, you don't be super precise. This stuff is kind of squishy.
Yeah.
So it was an approximate, you know, it's not like we're cutting wood or something. And so as we're installing it, if it didn't quite fit, you can kind of give it a little squish here and there, and
yeah, and you
pretty well.
almost want it to. We don't want gaps, so
correct.
Yeah, oversizing them a little bit made sense, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the ceiling insulation is complete, and the next step, as we said, is installing the faux beam. Let me explain this a little bit. So behind me, you can see the 6x6. I don't even know what this is. The big support beam, the pressure-treated support beam that holds up the barn, and then also this 2x6, which supports the supports. Now, I don't know about you, maybe you like this look. I don't so much like this look. So we're going to do a faux or a fake wrap around both of the supports, extend across the middle and onto the other side to make it look like a beam, a support beam. Really excited about that. And these are the materials that we're going to be doing that with. A friend of ours had a whole stash of this, so we were able to get some from him. This is called Blue and Buggy Pine or Blue Pine. You know, it's beautiful. So as David and I were pulling out the wood and making sure we had the right cuts and the lengths and all of that, we were talking about, well, which side do we want facing? And so David was, you know, he was gesturing and saying this, and I'm like, no, you're holding it backwards, dude. It's actually, this is the face. This is the side that was planed. And he was surprised that I wouldn't want this rustic side. And I'm like, well, this is really cool and it could create a cool space in here. I just love the detail of this, the blue streaks in here and the warmth of this kind of orangey gold like I have on my door. So I'm like, no, I want this more refined look. So some of you may agree with David, he said, and some of you may agree with Renee, she said. So since this is the she shed, this side wins. So anyway, so we're going to get started on that. We need to, like I said, we need to pick out the pieces that are going to go in the correct place and start cutting it down and building the box that's going to go around the faux beams.
So we've got a total of 9 boards to process in a number of ways because we're basically building a C channel, just a 3-sided thing for across the top and on the left and on the right. So this first step here is jointing the boards, making a nice clean straight edge down one side so you can run that edge against the table saw fence to then rip them down to their final width. So I've got this 6-inch bench top jointer and we're running like 8, 12, 14 foot long material through it, which, you know, you use what you've got. I'm grateful for the tools that I have, but some of them were rather comedic, watching me wrestle these boards through the in-feed and out-feed stand. Haven't done that in a while, so the first milling operation of getting one edge of all the boards jointed took a little longer than I wanted, but that's okay. It's fun getting back into the swing of woodworking. So the next thing that we need to do is rip all the boards to the right width. Now there'll be just obviously one table saw set up for the side pieces of both the left and the right beams that we're building. So what I want to be mindful of is we've got a different situation from the left side to the right side. On this side, we've got an innie. The structural beam is not proud of the sheathing. Matter of fact, it's recessed just a little bit. But over here, we have a little bit different situation. On this side, we have an outie. The structural beam is proud of the actual sheathing. Plus, we've got this 2x6 chunk up here that kind of helps actually truly support the building, or support the loft actually. So the width of those sidewalls that we want to cut for our faux beam, we want to make sure that they're wide enough for the worst case situation, which is this side. So with that in mind, let's go make some more sawdust. So these tool setups take a surprising amount of time. I love woodworking, I loved this project, but just if you've ever, I don't know, hired a woodworker to like make some custom piece of furniture and you get a little bit of sticker shock, you know, part of what, certainly there's some skill involved. I am not a professional woodworker, I am a hack, right? With something of an addiction for tools. I'm not a pro, but I definitely have sympathy, or I can relate to why they charge what they charge for doing a one-off custom piece, especially because there's a lot to do, there's a lot to know, there's a lot of equipment to have, and certainly no shortage of time investment.
Well, it really is nice to have a neighbor like you having the wood shop right next door to...
He said right next door to the she shed.
I know.
How
what a
about
good
that?
neighbor you are, being able to use all these tools. Even though you did have to move things around, it was so great to be able to have the convenience of everything in a covered area. And we had heaters going,
yeah,
music going. It was pretty good.
I was feeling pretty selfish about, we've put a lot of emphasis on getting the wood shop prepped and usable, and your space hasn't gotten a lot of love comparatively. We're just now really getting into the thrust of that, but now that we're doing some of the things that we're doing here, it's like, okay, well, we kind of needed that space functional first, before, as kind of a prerequisite to do some of the things that we're doing in your space. So it's like, okay, I feel less guilty now.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so different day, picking up on this project where we left off last time.
I was able to previously get most of the material ripped to the correct width, and I've got just a little bit more of that sort of work to do here at the table saw. But before we start getting too excited about cutting things to length and then assembling our little C-channel shape and getting it hung and all that jazz, what occurred to me is that I'd like to run everything through the thickness planer as well. So you'll see me doing that here shortly. And that might seem weird since there's only going to be one side of the material that will face outward. And like Renee said, she wants the planed side of the material facing out, which is great. But what shot through my head is that the non-planed side, the rough sawn side, is a little fuzzy. And since we're just kind of keeping this simple and just doing butt joints where these two boards will meet together, that non-planed side is a little darker, and it's kind of nappy because it's it's still rough sawn. So what occurred to me is that where those two boards meet, that darker patina is going to show through and make a more pronounced line where those two boards meet. So running them through the thickness planer will sort of help minimize that just a little bit. So that's where we're headed with the next few steps. So let's don some Ear Pro, Eye Pro, and start firing up tools and get back at it. With that, everything is ripped to width. So that means we need to kind of rearrange the room a little bit. Now, normally I'm running shorter materials through all of my machines, so my 24-foot by 24-foot generous space is usually like plenty. But since we're running material that's, 12 feet plus, to be able to have in-feed and out-feed, you see me using the doorway into the next room. So since the next thing we're going to do is run the planer, it kind of needs to sit where this thing is sitting right now to take advantage of the doorway. So it's rearrange time. We're enjoying the day. All right, so the more we are working with this wood, the more we're really thinking it was just a wonderful choice. This is just a scrap, but the part that's been freshly planed, the side that's been freshly planed, the blue-gray figuring really comes through, and it's kind of neat looking. Versus the rough sawn side that hasn't been planed. Mm-hmm. Well, it's just that it's rough sawn. Right. So right. I think this is really going to be pretty.
I think so too. And it was interesting because previously, as we were talking about it before, that, we were comparing the sides and we were saying, I liked this side and David liked the rough hewn side, the whole he said, she said thing. When we planed the rough side, it's like, wait a minute, now I like that side better. So it's kind of like you're at the eye doctor. Was it 1 or 2? So now I'm flipping each board over, deciding what did you call this again? The striping, the figuring, that I like some of them a little bit better. So that's been kind of fun, where I get to have more choices. I will say that when we're finished, I'm not going to finish them with stain or sealer or anything. I just really want it to be natural. Yes, and let the natural patina come through. So this side, I think, is the one that we just planed, and the other side, my lovely assistant will flip it. You can see how there's some patina, right? So this is pine, and so it's going to draw some of those oils out, and it's going to change over time. So I feel pretty good about that decision to do that right today. I feel good about that decision. I guess if later on I decide I don't like the way it's going, I could always do it later.
You could
once it's
hit it
installed
with a power sander and brighten it up again, and then seal it with something, and then that would retard the sort of yellowing that happens. As I understand it, the original processing of this lumber happened probably about 15 years ago when it was planed on one side, mm-hmm. and then stowed away for a project that never happened. So it's mostly kind of yellowing that happens, whereas freshly planed, yeah, I guess it's still pretty
pretty yellowy, but it's
Right.
a little bit whiter. So it's
Brighter.
just a matter of what you like.
Yeah, so
'Cause we have
there's
white walls in there, so maybe the yellowy next to it wouldn't be so great.
right, and we'll have to see. I mean, it just depends on which way it goes. But I kind of I want to let it breathe and get acclimated, and we'll make decisions. But I'm not going to do anything until it's up, it's settled in, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so now what we need to do next, we've run these all through the planer with the cutter head at one particular height, but we've got a couple of spots where there is still some of the rough sawn stuff showing. So I need to lower the cutter head and then run just a couple of these boards really through just one more time, and then we're done with the planer and we can move on to the next step. You can grab a clamp and just do what I'm doing. There is glue at the joint where these two boards meet. So I picked a place not exactly in the middle, but as you can see, the board sort of wanders a little bit, right? So the idea is before the glue sets up, we need to match this edge right with the edge of the board beneath it, and then add the clamp. So
Maybe work from the middle out.
okay.
Look at that. That looks really good together.
It's not bad. Yeah, it'll do.
Yeah.
Okay, keep them coming. You're doing great.
So are you. Well, we're just affirming each other. All right, so now we're ready to hoist the center beam, but we realized we did a couple of test fits and we needed some help.
We need muscle.
We need muscle, and I'm not offended, but I have zero muscle. So we've asked for Josh to come over and help. So here's Josh, my son, to help us and use his muscles. Thanks, Josh.
You want me to go to the side? Or
no,
just,
you're good.
No, you're good.
Together, right?
You're good.
All right.
Yeah,
I was going to come in
no.
and do this, but
No, actually do that. No, okay, anyway.
All right. No. No, it'll be fun. It'll be
Okay.
fun. All right. So, yeah, it's just going to be long and unwieldy and bulky, and it might be, what's the word?
Scary.
Comedic. But we're gonna try and put this thing up.
And hopefully nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, that's always preferred.
All right. Oh, looky there.
Okay, but then I need to come underneath. I'll be darned. Hand me one of those mallets in a second. Yep. It's time for the hammer. You okay, Josh?
Yep.
Oh.
Ow! Do you want earplugs?
I'm just not going to do that again.
Right. You're right next to your face. Right.
It's like a drum.
This is payback for all that drumming. I'm just kidding.
Is it moving? Can someone see if it's moving? It's not moving.
No, it's not moving.
Okay, so
Where are we? We're not quite there. We're getting close.
Did we get a level?
These nails, that's. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, we'll want to nail it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool that we don't have people up there for extra minutes while I'm trying to run back and
That
forth.
was my concern.
Right. Nice.
Great. It's a nice beam.
Thank you. Love it. Love it.
It's going to be
Cool.
so pretty when this is all finished.
Yeah. Pretty exciting to see this coming together. She's been talking about the concept of having a faux beam in here for like over a year. We've had the wood stacked up for I don't know how long, so seeing even just the upper part go in was like just really satisfying for both of us because it's like this matches the vision. It's kind of cool. And the install of that actually went. I know it looked rather violent, but it actually went as good as I could have hoped for. Really. So with the upper portion in place, we can move on to installing the side caps, I guess you could call them. And so we oversized these on the length intentionally so that now that the upper one is in place, we can make some accurate marks on these and know exactly where to cut them to trim them to their final length.
Really happy with the way that these turned out. It exceeded my expectations, really. I kind of had a vision for this, what I thought it might look like, but really it's just, yeah, it's better than I thought it would turn out. Sure, it's not absolutely perfect, but it is perfect for me. And so now the next step is for the drywallers to come tomorrow and start installing the drywall. So it's really great that we have one more step closer to having a completed studio. And just like that, the drywall is done.
Yes.
So we did look at a variety of sheet goods. We talked about a pallet wood ceiling, but ultimately we decided, let's go with their drywall. We know a great contractor and they did a fantastic job. The ceiling is absolutely perfect. It was a breeze to paint, and boy, is it nice to have this complete look. It reflects a lot of light off the ceiling and the walls and just makes the space bright and clean.
Yeah, the pallets would have been really tedious to even just break them down, let alone cut them to size and make them uniform and put them up. It would have looked neat, but you know, we'd still be working on it.
It's true, it's true.
And now we have a huge stash of pallets that we need to figure out something else to do with. I don't know, it might just be a big bonfire one day.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
All right, so best laid plans, right? So David and I came out here fully anticipating to be able to knock out all of the trim, the door frames, all of that today. Well, when we did inventory, we realized that I had not prepped and painted all of the door frame materials. So we're going to be doing this on the side and then a wider band along the top. So I still need to cut and paint those, but that's not going to stop us today. We will get some work done and we'll share with you what we're going to do next.
All right, so since we don't have enough of this painted to be able to actually tack it into place and install, I'm just going to use a short chunk of it as a kind of a gauge block, as a spacer. So I can hold a piece of it here where it's going to go, and that will allow me to at least cut the baseboard pieces to the right length so that at least today we can get this much installed. We have to actually go and buy paint, and we don't really want to take a chunk out of our work time today, so this will happen some other day. So at this point, these are all cut to size, but as you might guess, we had a rough cut length to come in and make a mark for what length they actually needed to be, because of course they couldn't all be the same.
No.
The distance between the structural posts is a little bit different on every single one. So once we had them all cut, obviously it was quick to bring them on in and schlep them where they go. And I think Renee's new nickname is going to be Gunner.
I do like power tools.
She does. She does a fantastic job.
This is not, we did speed this up a little bit. I don't work quite that fast.
No.
I'm pretty speedy, but that's
Yeah.
not quite that fast.
You're doing great. So then this part, we had some leftover of the same material that we did on the sides of the door casings. And for whatever reason, the ceiling height of where they placed the loft is just a little bit more than 8 feet. So the 8 foot long OSB that we clad the walls with, there's this little gap around the top. So we're like, oh, hey, we could use that extra door casing material kind of like crown. And so that's what we're tacking up there right now, just to fill in that gap and make it look a little nicer.
And it looks so nice. At first I thought, oh, is it going to make that much of a difference? But boy, it really, really did.
And then so at this point, fast forward, we actually got paint, and we have actually got enough of the material cut for the door casings. Now Renee wanted to place the door casing like this, right up to the edge of the door jamb, as opposed to moved out a little bit and stepped like this. And that's great, that's fine. The only place though where that doesn't work is like right alongside the hinge. The body of the hinge forces it to move out a little bit. So, but there's a cure, and it's called a router table. A cove bit to just on those little sections of the door casing where the hinges fall. I just made some marks and then set up the router table with just a portion of that cove bit exposed, so that just on those little segments we could just route out a little bit of material, and you got your wish.
Yeah, it looks really nice though.
You got your wish.
It's very custom. I know if I had wanted to do that in the house, you would have been like, no, offset please.
Yeah,
But for 2 doors,
right.
you know.
Oh, it was easy. Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
And my router table is kind of my favorite tool in the shop. So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like everything is out. You have all of your tools. Everything is set up, so you can, you know.
I am very spoiled to have a wood shop like that.
And I'm spoiled that you're spoiled.
Yeah. And of course, now with those pieces prepped, they just fit right like you wanted them to.
Thank you.
Yay.
It does look really nice. Yeah, so after we're finished here, you know, I go in, I do fill in all of the holes, and did the caulking around all of the trim. Did a little touch-up paint once all of the trim was up. That took some time, but it looks so nice having everything finished. I mean, I know it is just a barn, but having everything finished and clean looking, it looks really great.
Yeah.
Now that the door case work is done, we're ready to go on to the windows. So we found this material in the coal pile at Home Depot, and you might think it's a little rough and ready, and you'd be right, but there's enough salvageable material here for us to successfully trim out this space. So we'll get that up, and then we're going to use the same materials that we did for the doors to frame out this window. Well, the day has arrived. The studio space is ready. I am so beyond excited to be able to share this with you. I feel like as we're opening this store, we're coming into Oz. We're in the barn right now. You could probably see my breath. It's kind of cold out here. But when we open the store, it's like it's such a refined and wonderful space. So let me show you around inside. Okay, so here it is. This has been a long time in coming, but I could not be more pleased with the end result. I never envisioned it being as refined as it is. Now you may recall in a different video, I did say I was going to do a palette ceiling project. Well, we opted to do the drywall instead. And I am really, really pleased with the overall effect. It's super bright, it's clean, and it does reflect a lot of light off the ceiling. And it does highlight our faux beam. So very, very pleased with that. And honestly, if we were doing the palette project, we'd still be working on it because, as you know, that's kind of, if you've done a palette wood project, that's a little tedious, right? So now I get to start moving in, but that will be in a separate video and I'll take you along with me. So we've got a lot of items up in the loft, which we will need to organize and decide what we want to use, what we want to hang. And we will do that in a separate video because that will be quite extensive. But I want to know from you, if you have a she shed of your own or a creative space, give me some ideas. This is a blank slate, really, and I've never had a space like this before. So I'm kind of sitting here, you know, kind of spinning around, okay, what do I do next? Because it can be a little overwhelming. So I really would love your feedback, any ideas that you have. I have a desk and a clock. That's the extent of it right now. So anyway, if you don't mind, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when that next episode comes out. Definitely like this video and tell me what you're thinking about for ideas for me. So until next time, I hope you're all doing well and we'll see you again soon. Take care.